All right, let's get started. Welcome everybody. Another wizard session. Today we're going to be talking about the new AI widget, and we're going to go over the reimagining of the join loops and orchestration. But before we get into that, let's talk about some housekeeping stuff. So, product statement. We're going to make forward-looking statements because we love making forward-looking statements. It wouldn't be any fun if you didn't. Don't make any purchasing decisions based on anything we say. It'd be dangerous. Devrel, Nick, what do we got to talk about from
Hello.
Devrel's side?
Yeah, lots of good stuff. If you have not heard, registration for DevCon is open right now, and you get an early bird discount through April 1st. You also get a swag discount through April 1st. Mine has not arrived in the mail yet, so I'm still rocking last year's swag, but I do love it. We are featuring a zip up hoodie. We've got glasses, like pint glasses. We've got socks, everything a growing developer needs. But we are crazy excited about the event this year. We have a track just for all things agents, a track for extend, a track for connecting systems, and a track for analyze and data cloud. Going to be super awesome. We have our traditional theater sessions, and I saw some good questions in the chat I'll get to. Two other things I want to highlight this year. We are doubling down on very live demo. So if, as you'll see in my new blog Who Dis section, very live demo has taken over the entire conference in the best possible way. Our leadership is super keen on, if it's in the keynote, it's got to be a live demo, which, for us, we're shouting from the rooftops about that. We think that's awesome. So everything at DevCon is going to be very live. We'll have even more very live demos this year. And we're piloting a new session type called a Chalk Talk, which our spin on it is that it is an expert or an architect at a whiteboard, and they get to dive deep on a topic, and then everybody gets to talk about it together, gets to architect things together, talk about those decisions, those trade-offs. Going to be really, really fun. It's kind of like an Ask Workday session at Rising, but developer-fied to the nth degree. So going to be really, really cool. I saw some questions about the theater session pitch, the CFP. Those decisions are being made right now. Comms should go out to speakers in the next couple weeks. Bear with us. We are doing our due diligence right now and keeping all things balanced for our experiential learning at DevCon. But I can't wait to see you all there. Know too that you can also register for our hackathon in two different flavors this year. You can participate traditionally as a competitor, where you be placed on a team, or you can join as a learner, where you can show up. You don't have to have a team. We will have expert support there for you. You still get the lights, the music, the vibes. Imagine the John Hamm dancing gif that's all over LinkedIn for some reason right now, right? That is you hacking the night away, having a great time. Frankly, I feel like I would choose that track at my advanced age at this point. Sounds like a good time. We're looking to broaden the pool of who says the hackathon is for them. We have a beautiful space in the Pradana Gardens at Resorts World, excuse me. It's gonna be awesome. So we can't wait to see you there. Happy to answer any questions folks may have. And you've correctly noted we have a deep dive session coming up next week too. Ooh, I
Uh,
also want to plug, and I could have put
what
this
else?
in
What
the
else? What do we got?
page. We are launching developer meetups all over the frickin' world. There are more than three, but right now you'll see the inaugural one in Texas, another one in Toronto, and another one that has escaped my brain, I believe in San Francisco. But Shreya Dandan and our team is taking calls with people all over the planet. It's really, really exciting. So if you would like to host a meetup to become a Workday Developer Ambassador and get the community going in your area, we have a form you can fill out, which I will also make sure to link. It's taken off like a rocket ship, and we want you to be a part of it.
I'm already signed up for the one in Toronto, so you want to
Yeah.
come out and say hello? I'll be there.
Awesome.
I mean, I offer a developer meetup at my home office every day. I've got 12 acres, lots of place to run around, but I'm out in the middle of
Great.
nowhere, so nobody shows up.
Free range developer meetup. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Outdoor access. Yeah.
hmm
That's awesome. But heady times here at Developer Relations, and excited to be doing it with y'all.
Good. I'm excited. Lots of good stuff coming down the pipe. All
Totes
right,
my goats.
product news and updates. Arcane Auditor. Haven't mentioned it in a while. V1.4 came out in December, and I took a break because I was working on it a lot. Um, V1.5 is coming soon. I think I'm feature complete. I'm doing some testing. Got lots of stuff coming. I've got new rules for Orchestrate. So we have Orchestrate support now. Um, there's, I think, 5 or 6 rules that I'm adding. Um, Talking to Mark, I've got some ideas for maybe some other rules in the future. But it'll give you a little bit of extra coverage in orchestrations for some gotchas to watch out for. As always, everything is completely configurable. If you don't like a rule, shut it off. But it takes out some of that manual work. So I included a link here in the post to the current, well, the main repository. V1.4 is out there. If you haven't used it, take a look. It really can help with any friction in your review processes because, of course, all of you are having your code reviewed, right? Of course, yeah. Excellent. App preview pop out. This is a really cool one. So we got an example here. I would love to show you the page inspector, but unfortunately, I got hit by the bug where it doesn't actually show. So, some people reported this on the forums. Workday is aware. Hopefully, we'll get that addressed. But rest assured, at some point, the classic view here for Page Inspector, which is one of my favorite features ever, should be back. But we have a new pop out that we can use. There's a little button up here in the upper right corner, and this is going to give us a new tab. We can see everything. It's much bigger, more real estate. And down at the bottom, you're going to see we've got a couple buttons here. We've got this tab for scripts console, and then we've got page state. Okay, let's look at page state first. So page state is going to give you a breakdown similar to what Page Inspector used to have, where you could navigate to individual things, but it's in this nice tree. It's easy to see everything. So you can see all the variables that are a part of your page. These are delivered session variables, page variables, etc. It's all at a glance, right? It's very nice, easy to see everything. Um, and endpoints, individual endpoints. Not much information there on these just yet. And see the response header. So these are ones that are not deferred, obviously. So we can get a little bit of information about that, the runs there. So you can take a look. And then there's tags, and this has a breakdown of your page, broken down, kind of categorizing by sections as well as widgets. So I have a grid here on the page, and I can see a little bit of information about it. 3 rows. You can see what flags are set, right? Do not add is set defaults, etc. This is great at a glance information. Now, personally, I like the scripts console. You can go in here and you can actually write code to test out. You make it a little bigger so we can write entire functions, and this allows you to do the same thing you could do in Page Inspector, right? And also, you're going to notice up here, this is actually our debug, our logging, our console logging shows up here. So I have some console logs on each of these things. If I go here and I'm going to change this, and we're going to be a monk instead of a fighter now. And on change, I get this message here that the class name changed. Now, one thing it doesn't tell me is what the log level is. I'm hoping Workday will update that. Because if you go here, you can filter out logs by level, and you can select more than one. As you can see, I still don't see it because it was a debug level. But that gives you the ability to filter based on exactly what you want to look for. So if you only want to look at errors versus everything that you have in debug. All right, it's cool. Take advantage of it. It's going to help your development. It's going to help your troubleshooting, um, code creation for any scripting you're doing. It's a great tool. All right. Checking the chat here. Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Any news on Prism component for Orchestrate? I don't know if we have anybody on who could
Joe
answer.
on Friday said there was a slight delay.
Okay.
So
So
stay tuned on that one. He'll post in the forums as
uh
there.
yeah, and deep dives next week. So I would say that that'll be a great opportunity to get more information on that and to be able to ask questions because Merrick's usually there too as well. So is it possible to change the page state? Um, change the page state footer sections. I'm not sure what you mean, you Roger. Without been using app preview pop out to test pages in the middle of a flow since it doesn't clear out when you navigate to a different page in app builder. Excellent. Yeah, I think, and again, like with any new features, like with the pop out, right, there'll be a little bit of iteration and improvements. So if it doesn't work quite how you are expecting or hoping today, I would encourage you to put a feedback post on the forums. The PMs pretty regularly check the forums, and um, so I know there are people out there looking. It's a good way to get information back to the development team. You've already, I get what you're meaning. Probably, I haven't done it before actually. I don't know. Usually you can do it via references though. I'm not sure on the footer. That's something I'll have to test. All right. So some other product updates. I'll grab this here. So pagination for external REST APIs. So previously, throw this in the chat. We couldn't paginate when we had to call an external API, and so you had to kind of uh, hand wrap it yourself. Um, is a bit of work. So allows you when you've got an API that supports it, paging, and you've got, probably a lot of records that are going to come back. Now you have this new component where you can page it. This is actually pretty great right up here in the forum, so I'm not going to try to explain everything. But if you need to do it, walk through this. Um, there's some example code. I think they did a great job. On the product update post. So take a look at that. All right, what else do we have? Improved polling. All right, so the polling update, we get a lot more granularity along with it being exponential back off. And I think this is a exciting one because I think there's a lot of people who are looking for shorter time polls, and there's been all sorts of ways that people have tried to work around it. How can I sleep, right? And unfortunately, some of the ways that people came up with are um, efficiently compiled out by the engine. So things don't always work how you want. But this now is Workday giving you a feature to do it. And so I encourage you, if you need capabilities like that, to look at the HTTP polling and see if that meets your needs. Because really that's the right way to approach the problem. All right. Now we have some visual changes that were made to the extend cards. Actually, I think there's some examples here. This is kind of some minor refinements in the UI. You can see, for example, status indicators, um, little nice rounding, right? And so these hard square edges, um, just again like some refinements. I actually actually really like that they allow you to do this with the imaging and having the padding. Um, in some cases you just don't want it to go all the way around. So a little more customization in the UI, and I don't think anybody ever complained about that, right? All right. I'm gonna go ahead and grab these two links for the extend AI widget, um, as well as the remastered orchestration loops, but I'm not going to talk about it because Clint is going to do some demoing for you. So let me stop sharing and I'm going to hand it over to Clint.
Let me start sharing. Chat. Yeah, it needs to be annotations because I tend to scribble. Move that over to the right spot. All good to see my screen?
Looks good.
Awesome. Well, some very cool stuff happened in 2026 R1. There's just so many features. And we've already touched on a few of them, and we mentioned a few of them last time, but we wanted to dive a little deeper into these because some of them really open up some fantastic use cases and make some really key core fixes. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about over the next little while here is the why question. Like why is this important? Why has this got value? Because I think you'll find that the join loop accepted here, everything else is actually really easy to code. So we're going to play around a bunch with the ways that you code these items, and we'll see that they're really easy to implement and honestly open up some very cool new use cases. So I'm going to start off with the PMD scripting number functions. I know, pulse pounding excitement, right? Oh, wow, I can do mins and maxes? Okay, well, those are pretty much table stakes, but I want to talk about the format. The format is a really interesting concept here because the thing that I think is interesting about formatting is, again, the why. There's something really key here that I want to show you, and that is this right here. You'll notice that I can format a number now so that it's got 2 decimal places. No problem. That's nice and easy with this modern system. But the thing is, if I put this into a text column, notice how it's all left justified. So if this is all left justified, well, I'm not getting a really good description of, a nice clean number column. Now, the old hack to that was, well, you make it a currency field. Gives you 2 decimal places, right justifies it, makes it all look right. Unfortunately, there's oftentimes in finance, you need to have a number that is not 2 decimal places. So currency conversion rates are frequently 4 to 6 decimal places, and you want to show them as dollar values. Well, that used to be incredibly hard to do. Like you got into read-only text, and then there's like issues with padding zeros, and it was actually a real pain. And now it's trivial. It's so easy, it's not even funny. Let, let's take a look at what this actually took to do. So to do this, and I'm going to go into code mode, I've started off with a pretty straightforward grid. I just threw in some rows. So, and this code's available to you. You can download it from Git. There'll be a link on the forum page. Let me just make that a little bit bigger. And you can see I've got a bunch of numbers here, some of which are all 4 digits, some of which are not. Here's that text column and the number format. This is the new feature that I'm talking about, number colon format. I'm grabbing the paid dollar value and giving it 2 decimal places, and that works great. But the problem is it's a text item and that left justifies it, which doesn't give you that nice clean column. If you're building a finance application, they're not going to be happy with that. So you have to be just a little bit trickier. Here's the tricky bit. And as I've often said, the magic is in the intersections. Well, you'll notice that this is the rich text widget type. So this is a new one, and we're going to talk more about this a little bit later on. But what this allows you to do is this allows you to control alignment. So to make that currency conversion rate look right, what do? I'm going to format the number into 4 decimal places. That nice clean, that's a new feature. That couldn't have done that before. I'm sure somebody out there is saying, but couldn't you just use a number widget and set the number of digits? Unfortunately, the number of digits and the format bindings on number widgets generally aren't respected. So you can put these in and they're useful for sanitizing data as it comes in, but it doesn't actually present based on this. And if we jump up here, let me show you. So this has format and 2 decimal places on the number, and you notice it's not respecting it. However, if you use a currency widget, it does respect it, or if you use the number format that we were just looking at in a rich text widget and force the alignment, boom, here you go. That easy. And this is what your finance customers are going to be looking for. And like crazy easy to code, simple, straightforward, we're right there. Saw a hand up. If I can get you to throw your questions into chat, that would be easiest to manage. Yeah, no sorting or filtering with rich text. Unfortunately true. That does complicate the world. But this means you have to do external sorts and filters. Now the next one that I want to play around a little with is on-file add. Mike. So there's a feedback out there about adjusting column widths. So yes, awesome observation. Let me just jump back and show people. So you see how this conversion rate, because this is rich text, it is making a very wide column rather than a smaller column. So it's chewing up most of the space here, despite these all being numbers. Page processor is going to do what the page processor is going to do. So it can be made smaller, but it will always weight the rich text more than text and more than number items on the initial load. So can you? Unfortunately, no. So can you tell it how wide this needs to be? No, there's unfortunately no way to control what that initial load is. Um, so that there's a feedback for jump in on that one. Paulus, it doesn't matter which you use. I tried both paragraph and span, and I got the same results. So I use P here. Have I tried without them? So like just still with the align? Yeah, I don't think that'll work. And for those of you wondering, hey, wait a minute, is that actually supported? Yes, paragraph and span, these are all supported. Let me just jump over the docs for a second. Good question. So span allows text align, paragraph allows text align. I didn't try the line stuff. Live coding, what could possibly go wrong, right? Let's see if App Preview wants to play nice. Yeah, it took LI. Yeah, so if you look at the rich text documentation, let me throw this into chat. There's a bunch of stuff here that I wouldn't have expected. I didn't expect LI and UL would be there, but come on, play, right? This is the sort of stuff you can play around with. Yeah, the span didn't work, but so lots of cool stuff you can try out here. And I encourage you to play around with it. If you find a better way to do this that would allow you to do sorting and filtering, you let me know. I would love to see it. And Mo, are there any other widgets we can write a line? Unfortunately, no. So that's why I was very excited to see the rich text widget would now allow us to do it. So there's very few things that allow you to do that right alignment. Uh, but there are. Angie's going to build an agent for that. Yes, you do. You do that for me. And so, yeah, it's very hard to right align stuff. And that's why I was very excited to see that we now had something that respected that right align very nicely and allowed us to do fractional digits. Arnav, can we override fractional digits on currency and hide the currency symbol? So you'll notice that I'm using a currency code here. I'm not actually presenting the currency symbol. However, and here's the however, can we override the currency formats on that? I don't believe so. You'll notice that this is forcing it to, I'm using Canadian dollars here. You can use, you can generally get 2 or 3 decimal places. Those are about your only choices because it's about all there really is out there for this. Oh, you can put those in, it'll ignore you. As I said, these are generally not respected. So you can see I've got fraction digits, I've got format. I'm trying to force this to 3, and it sees currency code of Canadian dollars, and that's what you get. So this has always been the workaround. This has always been the way that we got a reasonable finance number built. However, and therein lay the however, it gave you whatever that currency code is. And that's it. It defaults to USD if you don't specify. So if you're wondering, how did this work before? I didn't put in a currency code. It gives you USD, which is 2 decimal places. And Paula, margin left, that's a really good question. I don't know.
It's right there in the span. And
Yep,
yeah,
but it's in P as well, so
yeah. I did note that there's some things that don't work that used to work in rich text. So I found out emoji magic. So some of my formatting I had to update, but ultimately I think things still work the way I wanted.
if we do right, let's see if that moves it over. So margin left seems to work. Margin right's not working. Let's do margin left. $15,000 pixels is probably a few too many, but let's see what it does. No, just ignored it. Can't remember, is it Just unhappy with the. That was the problem with the page processor. When it doesn't like something, it usually just ignores you. Great questions, folks. It's like minus 150. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, I mean, you can put it in. It just doesn't seem to be making any changes. Any other questions on formatting? It's kind of fun, right? You wouldn't think that, hey, being able to do a number format and like a rich text and allowing us to do alignment would be that cool.
We got way more out of that portion of this conversation than I expected.
So let's talk about on-file add for a minute. There's some cool stuff here too. And what I want to do is, does anyone else remember expression language? I mean, you kind of want to raise a glass and tip one out for expression language. Before we had PMD scripting, we had a thing called expression language, and this was the last thing, the absolute last thing that expression language did that PMD scripting didn't, and that was allow you to see a file name before you saved something. So what we want to do is we want to give users the ability to upload a file and be able to look at what they've given us before we try to save it. Frequently, what we found was it gets really frustrating for users where they upload it, they click OK, and then on the next page I say, yeah, that file you gave me, nah, that's not right. It's not going to work for me. What this file uploader event, so we now have on file add and on file remove. So you can see there's an on file add and an on file remove. And I've just set up a nice simple little check here. So let's take a quick peek at what this looks like. So if I go up to the on file add, I've got a really simple file uploader here. Literally, I stole this out of the documentation. There's two main things that people always want to check when somebody uploads. And the first one is size. And there's actually a control for that. So you can just specify a max file size. I don't know why I put that inside of binding. That can just be a straight number. But this says, hey, this will only accept up to 128K on your file. And this is really useful, especially with how good modern cell phone cameras have become. People are like uploading receipts that are like 9 megs. Yeah, you probably don't need that level of resolution for a Chipotle receipt. We can specify file types. That's always been available. So these have been around and available for a long time. But the trouble that we keep hitting is what happens when somebody uploads a bad file name. So let me just upload a file here. So I can pop in here, grab a headshot, uploads a file, no problem. And then we're ready to send this out. Notice I don't have any outbound endpoints here. Nothing is getting saved on this page. So that's kind of boring, but you'll notice that what happens with this on file add is I'm doing a JSON as JSON with what data comes out of this. And what I get out of this is I get the file name. Don't get anything else, but now I can investigate that file name before I go to try to save it, because that was the problem. You go to try and save something with a bunch of wackadoodle illegal characters, and suddenly you've got real problems. You've got something that's just not going to work. So what can I do now? I can build in, and I've just got a string contains looking for anything with an ampersand on it. If I grab a picture of Roxy here, I can error the page, tell the user the file name's invalid, and not have to go any further than that. I can jump in and say, you know what, no. Don't use that file. That file is not going to work. And as you can see, this is trivially easy to code. So I can delete this out, clears out the error, and you can see there's the ampersand that caused my problem. Could I also catch that file name and change it? Awesome question there, Gray. People are gonna think I paid you for that one. Unfortunately, no. So unfortunately, you can't change the file name in on the object. It doesn't allow it. Or at least I wasn't able to figure it out. If there's somebody at Workday who knows how to make that happen, let me know. I would love to put that in there, but I tried a bunch of stuff to on the event row file name, and it was not working for me. So uh, this is, as far as I can tell, a read-only event. So the event.row.file name, and changing it didn't actually change it when I went to try to say change the file name. So it allows you to catch that user before they've gone on, and then they can just change the file name, tell them what, hey, you can't use this character, that character, the other character, and re-upload very easily. It doesn't allow you to change that file name on the user, and I'm not sure I'd want to, because that was the other concern, was like, well, if I change the file name and the user goes to look for their original file name, even if I've just flattened out, diacritics and stuff, they're probably still going to look for that file name with the accents and cedillas and all the different punctuation that we're not going to allow, and that may lead to usability problems where the user's uploaded a file and then can't find it afterwards. So can it be changed? I don't believe it can. Should it be changed? Which is always the more interesting question. Probably not. You probably should be looking to the user to do that if you can. Sometimes you can't, but if you can, this is a good way to make that happen. And of course, this is full PMD scripting. This is the obvious use case for it, but you can do pretty much anything else you want to do on the page here in this on-file ad. So it's a really great event, and it opens up some very cool use cases. I know, seriously, that's a cool feature. Like, that is insanely useful, and your users are going to be really happy that you catch them before they have to click OK and then go back to the page and re-navigate and all that other stuff. But let's talk about another really cool feature here. Another really cool feature is deep linking into Workday, and doing that within your Workday Extend application. So this is huge. This is something that I think is going to be wildly useful, and I think we're going to see this used all over the place. I'm already trying to use it. Like, it's been out for I think 3 weeks, and I'm like, okay, I can use it here, and I can put it over there. And the only difference is we're going to now be specifying a Workday task reference rather than a task reference. You come up with the WID and make sure you're getting the right WID. Sometimes this can be a little bit tricky to puzzle out, but basically just search for the thing that you want to search for. Why am I waving my hands in the air? Let's just take a quick peek at how you'd actually do this. So let me just duplicate a page here. And what I said was I'm going to go to create purchase order. And the trick here is you're going to want to just click on the task and try to do stuff from on the page. The tricky bit here is click View More. And now grab the integration ID view IDs from this page. This will get you to the right WID. And then we can pop in here, generate this button. I'll show you what this button looks like in just a sec. And when I hit create PO, notice it's not opening a new tab. Like, all the external link hack workaround, which is sometimes still useful. Sometimes you want to open that separate tab. However, in this case, we want to just create that purchase order directly based off this grid. And totally works exactly the way you'd expect it to. It's just going to, launch me right into a core Workday product. Once this update edit flow is completed, it's going to bring me back to the last seen view page, which is the page that I'm on in my Extend application. So how cool is that? I start from Extend, I go to core Workday. When I'm done with core Workday, it bounces me back to my Extend app. Very cool. Like, this is a hugely useful feature, and it binds the tooling between Workday and Extend so much tighter. This is, I think your users are going to love this. What does that code look like? What we were just looking at, it looks like just a standard button. Like, there's nothing odd about it. You grab the Workday task reference here. Kevin, yeah, unfortunately, no. You'll notice that all we get here is a WID. There is a feedback out there. I know, because I asked the same question. Like, hey, can I pass a parameter to this? Unfortunately not. You do have to go to a core item here. And yes, Taylor, yeah, you can do this on cards as well. So this is not just buttons. You can do this on a card. You still can't pass parameters, unfortunately, but I expect, if enough of us ask for it, and I certainly have here, the ability to put in a parameter array just like you would with a normal task reference, that'll be huge. I think there's probably some challenges with that, because with a task reference array, we can pass it in the URL. Not everything in Workday is going to accept, URL parameters. So maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. So the view link on extend objects, I'm crossing my fingers on that one too, man. Absolutely, Taylor. Aberami, yeah, I'm sure that there's some restrictions. I managed to find a couple of task references that it was unable to do. Uh, I didn't see any particular rhyme to it, but it worked for most of the tasks and most of the reports that I looked at. As long as the report didn't require a parameter or allowed me to get to, like you saw here, where it has a parameter collection page. As long as it had that, it worked fine. So this is hugely useful and worked just fine. So let's do a global online services, Amazon, currencies USD, P-card. Hit OK, hit submit. Oh, sure. I gotta do at least one goods line. And it's still not quite enough. Members is by the each. And my cost will be $10. You're really going to make me work for this, aren't you? Try to do a quick demo. It's always dangerous, right? Tax recoverability. And applicability. all this is just to get to where? Center. I had to pick something large, didn't I? Where is my cost center? Cost center's down at the bottom and at the end, isn't it? So, sorry for the extra length there, but now you can see, so Unis, the question was, do I need to create a flow returning back to the previous page from the deliver task page? Notice I don't. What happened was, as soon as I got way through all those errors, what happens? I hit the submitted, I get the pop-up, and I'm right back in my extend app. So I went from extend app, didn't have to build any flow, went through an entire core workday flow, hit OK, boom, brings me back to my extend app. It's going to bring you back to the last seen view page is what it is. So if this were an edit page, this wouldn't work. But because this is a view page, it totally does. And yeah, Brent, the links to the extend apps to be able to open in the mobile app, that one's been circulating around for quite some time. I'll cross my fingers on that one. Thanks, Rashad, by the way. And yeah, exactly great, right, Graham. All the validations. I went to Core Workday, did all the Core Workday stuff, and boom, I'm back. So this is hugely powerful. Yeah, seriously, take some time. That one's worthwhile. Now, the next thing I want to talk a little bit about is join loops. I love join loops. I'm going to put my hand up here. Join loops are awesome. They're one of the best features of orchestration. However, it would not be overstating things that the original UI was a little confusing. I tell a story that first time I saw a join loop, I got this deck from Jeff Haynes, and it had like lines going all over the place, and like the meme about the conspiracy theory with all the yarn across all the different pictures on the cork board and the crazy look. That's the essence of the original one here. And what we can do is, so Paula, I can play around with that, but let's take that out to the forum for a sec, because I got two more things I want to get through. And if you want to stick around at the end, we'll play around and we'll do section and section, because yeah, that's probably a good call. So let me jump through these last two because I think they're really key as well. And then we can stick around at the top of the hour and we'll play around. The join loop, however, this has got a really major facelift that honestly I think was a big step forward. So let's take a quick peek at what that looks like now. So here's a join loop. I create two WQL record sets. One just grabs all integration events here, and the other one is security permission for the delivered task is based on the user. If the user has access to it, they can see it, and if they don't, they'll get the standard error message. Security is not circumvented. Good question, though. So in this orchestration, I've got two WQL statements. One gets all integration events, one gets all users. And then I'm joining the two together. So I'm just grabbing all the integration events, seeing who it was ran as, and then I'm going out to the user info and adding some data in. So trivially simple use case. But what I want to show you is I want to show you how easy this is. This now walks you through the process. Where previously it just put everything on one page and you had to figure out what stuff you needed and what stuff you didn't. So you start off here with your primary data set. And then this is all it shows you. Where do you start? Well, you start with the iterator. I'm now going to iterate through this as my primary data set. So this is the thing I'm going to stream through. I'm going to stream through this thing start to finish. If I want to be sure that it ends up in my output set, it probably needs to be in my primary data set, or at least a link to it needs to be there. The error handling piece is now much easier. Like, hey, what do I want to do if there's a missing match? This is where I set skip, and this is where I set up a log. So this can be really useful, especially if you're dealing with things where you can output log files like, say, NO for I. Clean, easy to follow. You don't need to set much in here, though. Defaults will often work out well for you. And then you go to your joining set and add as many as you need. You say, okay, based on the random system user.id, what do I want to do? I now need to iterate through my second WQL statement and come up with the Workday ID. So this key here under the joining dataset key needs to come up with the same value as the primary dataset key. I think this is a lot easier to follow. There was only one tricky bit here. The only tricky bit that I found was you have to set a name here for your joining data set, and the little pencil there tells you that you have to do it, but it didn't jump out at me that I had to do that. So I sat there a little cross-eyed for a while because the boxes weren't populating. And if your boxes aren't populating, stop for a second, take a breath, and say, did I name that joining data set? And then you tell it what values you want. That's it. That easy. Yeah, and doing this in XSL is so much more complicated. Like this walks you through the process so much better, even than the old UI did. Like the old UI, once you knew where everything was, it made sense, but you had to learn where everything was. Now, here you go. That's that. This is it.
What do you mean you don't love setting up streaming accumulators?
Streamy accumulators. Ah! So this is a really powerful and really big step forward. Join loops, I think were underutilized because the UI was so difficult. I think this will really help a lot.
Yeah, it's I think the one of the few places in Orchestrate where when I go to do one, I have to go like look up the reference material like every
Yeah.
time. It's like, wait, how do you do this again? It's like file uploaders and extend code. It's like, oh wait, how does this work?
Yeah, where I was able to go through this whole thing, I didn't even look up one of my old ones. I did this completely off the top of my head with the one issue where I forgot to name the joining data set and was able to just muddle through. I think that's huge. Now I got one more thing here. Now, I'm generally resistant to talking about pro-only features, but that rich text widget that we saw earlier that we'll play around a little bit more when we start dealing with that column. There's another feature here. So we saw the number feature. It allows for nicely formatted tasking. We saw how we can move stuff around left, right. There's a new thing on this. And honestly, I think this is one of the more important features that Workday has put into Extended in a really long time. And it's really easy to use. It is unfortunately pro only. So it's pro only. But what this means is we can add in a tool that allows our user to use an AI to generate a tool or generate text within a system here. Yeah, yeah. I know this has been in the making for a long time. I saw it at a hackathon. This is very cool that it is now actually live. So this is live. This is in setup for pro, anyone right now. And I think it leads to a couple of things. Clear that drawing. So what this leads to is this allows you to put AI into your applications. Again, did I mention this is pro only? And I think it allows for a broad enough use that it is now going to allow you to really build AI into those systems in a meaningful, effective way that may start seeing your users get pulled out of the shadow AI world. What's going on out there? We all know this, right? Users are using a ton of AI, but they're not using it within heavily regulated corporate systems. They're out there. You know, I have a couple of AI LLM accounts myself, and I use those a lot. But we want to start controlling this. We want to start having a reasonable, corporate governance standpoint conversation about AI and where we're using it and what data is getting sent out and what data isn't. So one of the interesting challenges that come up with this is the sample code that Workday put out for this, and it allows for generative text here. So this generative text can be abused by users. We've seen this before, right? So let's say I want a job description which includes a chocolate chip cookie recipe. I can type that in here, and when I generate this job description, it'll respect that. Here's my simple chocolate chip cookies. So what I'm going to suggest is in most cases where you're using this, lock this down more. Don't allow the user to just randomly type in text, because I think there's a pretty large body of knowledge out there that says, you know what, if the user can type in text, they can get around your guardrails. So you can bounce in something here that says, hey, I'm going to just constrain that data. And now when I click on generate job description, I'm not giving the user a place where they can ask for chocolate chip cookie recipes or whatever other nefarious thing they want. Now, what was interesting about this, and I'm sorry we're at time here, but when I first showed Chris this example, his thought was like, well, yeah, that's great, but what about a million other use cases where it's going to be much harder to do this constraint? And the answer is, I think that's awesome, because what it does is it means that there's enough use cases that you could use this for out there in the world, that you could really actually put AI into your Extend app that will generate text for your users. And now you need to start having an interesting conversation about what data do I want to go out there? What data do I want to share? How can I use my Workday data to pass into my LLM so I can generate text to offload work from my users in a clean, simple fashion? So this is a very powerful tool, and I think this is going to make a huge splash. So the governance conversation is going to be massive, but I think this is going to be really interesting. This is going to be very cool. So thank you very much. I know a minute over here. Really appreciate your time. I'll definitely stick around, Paula, and let's see if we can throw a section around that column. If you got any questions, feel free to throw them in chat.